Good evening and welcome to the News on 80 International. I'm Lami Ali. Shagun Ajayi is the sign language interpreter. We begin with the headlines. Iran accuses the United States of failing to uphold a fragile ceasefire and by not taking ongoing diplomatic efforts seriously. Togo leads in a growing international effort to replace the widely used Mercator projection, arguing it misrepresents the true size of Africa. Airline operators suspend planned nationwide shutdown of flight operations over crippling fuel prices. Pope Leo XIV heads to Angola's remote and diamond-rich northeast in the latest stop on an African tour, during which he has spoken out against the country's glaring poverty. Sao Remo is the capital of the historically marginalized Lunda Sul province and close to Angola's largest diamond mine, Katoka, which extracts around 75% of the country's diamonds. Pope Leo will hold an open-air mid-morning mass expected to draw around 30,000 people. Afterwards, he will visit a home for the elderly, underscoring the Catholic Church's support for the province's poor infrastructure and services. Despite its mineral wealth, Lunda Sul suffers from poverty, with mining also blamed for environmental damage. In his first event after arriving in oil-rich Angola, the Pope spoke out against the harm caused by rampant exploitation of natural resources, which has been a theme of his tour of the continent. Togo is leading in a growing international effort to replace the widely used Mercator projection, arguing it misrepresents the true size of Africa and distorts global perception of the continent. Here is Justin Bemunyi with the details.
Backed by the African Union, Togo is preparing to present a draft resolution at the United Nations General Assembly in September 2026. The proposal calls for the global adoption of map projections that more accurately reflect real land areas. Experts say the current system, developed in 1569 for navigation, enlarges regions near the poles while shrinking those closer to the equator. According to Ajosi Peseuzum, this creates a misleading comparison, making Africa appear roughly the same size as Greenland. In reality, Africa is about 14 times larger and vast enough to contain the United States, China, India, and much of Europe combined. The initiative, spearheaded by Foreign Minister Robert Dosey, proposes adopting alternatives such as the equal Earth projection, which preserves relative land area more accurately. Critics of the Mercator model described the distortion as more than just technical. Some refer to it as cartographic colonialism, arguing it reinforces outdated global power dynamics by visually minimizing regions like Africa. Journalist Chabore Boraima says such representations influence how the continent is perceived internationally and can even shape global decision-making. Supporters believe the proposal could have far-reaching impact from education systems to international policy by correcting long-standing misconceptions about geography. Togo is expected to formally submit the resolution for a vote in September in what could mark a significant step toward reshaping how the world maps and understands itself. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
Senegal's former president, Macky Sall, is one of 4 candidates auditioning this week for the United Nations staff job. Sall is the only African among those vying to replace outgoing Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who leaves office at the end of the year. 4 candidates to be the next Secretary General of the United Nations will audition for the job this week, far fewer than there were 10 years ago when Antonio Guterres was selected as UN chief. Chile's former President Michelle, one of the 2 women and one of 3 from Latin America, will be the first to face ambassadors from the UN's 193 member nations during a 3-hour question and answer session on Tuesday. Michelle will be followed by UN nuclear chief Rafael Mariano Grossi of Argentina. On Wednesday, UN Trade Chief Rebecca Greenspan will take center stage in the General Assembly Hall. And finally, Senegal's former president, Macky Sall. In 2016, a hotly contested race drew 13 candidates. Now what has changed? For starters, the deeply polarized and conflict-racked world of 2026 is far different from the more peaceful global climate in 2016, the year Donald Trump was elected president for the first time. Now to the Middle East, where Iran has accused the United States of failing to uphold a fragile ceasefire and not taking ongoing diplomatic efforts seriously, raising fresh doubts about the chances of ending the conflict. Justin Bemunyi reports.
Iran's foreign ministry says the United States is sending mixed signals, publicly calling for dialogue while allegedly taking actions that weaken trust on the ground. Speaking at a weekly briefing, ministry spokesman Ismail Baqi said recent U.S. moves do not reflect genuine intent to resolve the conflict through diplomacy. He cited what Iran describes as violations of the current ceasefire, including a reported attack on an Iranian cargo vessel, the continued naval blockade of Iranian ports, and delays linked to ceasefire arrangements in Lebanon. The war, which began on February 28 after strikes killed Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei, has since expanded into a wider regional crisis involving Israel and U.S. forces. Although both sides recently met for talks under a fragile ceasefire that took effect on April 8, negotiations ended without a concrete arrangement. Now uncertainty surrounds the next steps. U.S. President Donald Trump says a new round of talks has been scheduled in Pakistan. However, Tehran has yet to confirm whether it will attend. Baqi says no decision has been made, signaling hesitation on Iran's part. Meanwhile, China has expressed concern over the U.S. seizure of an Iranian-flagged vessel accused of attempting to bypass the blockade, urging all sides to return to negotiations. As tensions simmer, the future of the ceasefire and any path toward a broader peace deal remains uncertain. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
Now, security has been stepped up in Islamabad as global attention turns to a crucial second round of peace talks between the United States and Iran, seen as a major test of the fragile ceasefire. Again, here is Justin Bemunyi with the details.
Armed security personnel have been deployed across key areas of the city, particularly around the presidential palace and the Serena Hotel, where the talks are expected to take place. Checkpoints have been set up, with vehicles being stopped and searched as authorities prepare for the high-level meeting. There is cautious optimism among residents. One local, Malek Shafik, says he hopes the talks will bring solutions and ease economic pressures. Pakistan is playing a central mediating role. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has held discussions with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, focusing on the regional situation and efforts to keep diplomacy on track. U.S. President Donald Trump has confirmed that American negotiators are traveling to Islamabad, signaling Washington's readiness for another round of engagement. However, significant challenges remain. A major sticking point is the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global oil route. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says the passage is effectively closed to most commercial traffic, while the United States is insisting it must be fully reopened. Tensions have also risen following the seizure of an Iranian vessel by U.S. forces over the weekend, adding strain to already fragile relations. Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Bakay says Tehran has not yet decided whether it will attend the talks, questioning the United States' commitment to diplomacy. The first round of talks, held on April 11, ended without a breakthrough, despite a 2-week ceasefire that began on April 8. As the ceasefire deadline approaches, the outcome of this second round of talks has been closely watched, with hopes it could either ease tensions or deepen the crisis. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
In other news, U.S. authorities have arrested an Iranian national accused of secretly brokering the sale of weapons to Sudan in what prosecutors describe as a major international arms trafficking case. The suspect, Shamim Murphy, was arrested at Los Angeles International Airport and is facing charges linked to the alleged supply of military equipment from Iran to Sudan. According to federal prosecutors, Murphy is accused of arranging the sale of drones, bombs, bomb fuses and millions of rounds of ammunition. The deals were reportedly intended for Sudan's defense ministry, including a drone contract said to be worth tens of millions of dollars. U.S. officials say she also facilitated travel for a Sudanese delegation to Iran and handed millions of euros in payments tied to the transactions. Court documents further allege that Murphy submitted a formal letter of intent to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to broker the sale of tens of thousands of bomb fuses. Bill Eseli, a senior U.S. prosecutor, confirmed the arrest and outlined the charges, describing the case as a serious violation of U.S. laws governing arms exports and international sanctions. Murphy, who became a lawful permanent resident of the United States in 2016, has not yet publicly responded to the allegations. She is expected to appear in court, where she could face up to 20 years in prison if convicted. The case adds to ongoing concerns over illicit arms flows and the role of international networks in supplying weapons to conflict zones. Watching the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja. It's time to take a short break. We will be back with more stories. Do stay tuned. You're welcome back. President Bola Tinubu has approved the establishment of a new campus for the Police Academy in Abuja, Yewa South local government area of Ogun State. In a statement by the presidential spokesman Bayo Ononuga, President Tinubu also approved a special take-off grant of 15 billion naira for the college. The president's approval was in fulfillment of the provisions of the Nigeria Police Academy Establishment Act 2021, particularly with respect to the expansion of the police academy based in Wudil, Kano State, into multiple campuses across the country. The intervention fund will be sourced from the TET Fund 2026 allocation to finance priority infrastructure, academic facilities, student accommodation and core training assets. However, a high-level consultative meeting involving the Minister of Police Affairs, the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, officials of the Federal Ministry of Education, the Inspector General of Police and the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission recommended the siting of the new campus in Abuja. In another development, President Bola Tinubu has reconstituted the 16-member governing council of the Nigeria Police Academy, Wudil, Kano State, appointing the Minister of Police Affairs, Senator Ibrahim Gaidam, as the chairman. In a statement by the Special Advisor on Media and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, the members of the council include the chairman of the Police Service Commission, the Inspector General of Police, and one representative each from the Federal Ministry of Education, the Federal Ministry of Finance, and the Federal Ministry of Justice. The president also appointed 6 persons to represent the 6 geopolitical zones. They are Babaganazan Adam, DCP retired, Northeast, Emmanuel Tokuma Manga, North Central, Megari Abat Diko, DIG retired, Northwest, Dubem Obaze, KSM, Southeast, Ajugereto in Southeast, Udomudo Ipodom, DIG retired, South-South. The Commandant of the Academy, the Provost, and the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of training will serve as ex-officio members. The Registrar of the Academy will serve as the Council's Secretary. Now, airlines operators have suspended a planned nationwide shutdown of flight operations over what they describe as crippling fuel prices. This suspension is as a result of the government's appeal to halt the action pending talks. The airline operators of Nigeria had warned it would halt services from Monday, April 20, saying surging jet fuel costs has made operations unsustainable. AON, in a statement, said it agreed to pause the action following an appeal from Nigeria's Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo SEN, who called for restraint and dialogue. The suspension was conditional pending the outcome of a meeting for all concerned parties scheduled for April 22nd as the instance of the aviation minister. Soaring jet fuel prices have upended the global aviation industry as a consequence of the Iran war, forcing airlines to raise fares, curb growth plans and rethink forecasts. Nigeria Airlines Operators of Nigeria says the jet fuel price surge has been exacerbated by supply constraints and foreign exchange pressures, significantly increasing operational costs. Fuel typically accounts for more than a third of airlines' expenses in Nigeria. Now, the Chief of Defence Staff, Olufemi Oluyede, has arrived at the headquarters of the Joint Task Force Operation Fansenyama in Zamfara State as part of an operational visit aimed at strengthening ongoing military efforts to address security challenges in the region. On arrival at the command headquarters, the CDS was received by senior military commanders and top officers of the operation. He was subsequently accorded a ceremonial guard of honor. The operational visit underscores the Defence Headquarters' commitment to boosting troop morale and consolidating gains in the fight against banditry and other security threats. The visit is expected to provide an opportunity for the Chief of Defence Staff to assess ongoing operations, interact with troops, and review strategies aimed at enhancing security across Zamfara State and the wider Northeast. Conflicts today are no longer fought solely on the battlefield. Increasingly, they are contested in the minds of participants. This underscores the critical importance of psychological operations and strategic communications. Those were the words of the Chief of Defence Intelligence, Lieutenant General Emmanuel Ondiande, to participants of the leadership course on psychological operations and strategic communications at the Defence Intelligence College in Abuja. Defence correspondent Olajide Bello was there.
Intelligence remains a decisive factor in modern warfare. It equips commanders with a clear understanding of the operational environment, enables anticipation of enemy actions, and supports the development of effective countermeasures for informed tactical and strategic decisions. This convergence at the Defence Intelligence College reflects its non-kinetic approach to tackling insecurity.
Nigeria's long-term security will not be achieved by force alone, but by winning the trust, confidence, and support of its people. This is where strategic communication and psychological operations becomes powerful instruments of national stability.
Has been carefully designed to equip participants with the knowledge, skills, and strategic mindset needed to operate effectively in today's complex environment.
If we can encourage the intelligence community to promote that and also to share that with the larger citizens, we will be able to see a quick way of responding to our many challenges.
The course demonstrates the college's commitment to building capacity, essential tools for national security, conflict management, and crisis response. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
Now, a coalition of ex-Niger Delta agitators has vowed to ensure full mobilization of youths in the region for the re-election of President Tinubu. The youths who addressed journalists in Abuja expressed satisfaction with the president's policies which have impacted on the youths in the region, while commending the president for sustaining the amnesty program which has empowered youths across the oil-producing states. The coalition called for a review of the program in line with the current economic realities in the country. While acknowledging the problem of unemployment and other socio-economic inequalities in the country, the youth expressed joy that the administration is already dealing with the issues.
Appreciating the president for making sure that the budget of the presidential amnesty office increased. So we are appreciating for that. And we're also using this medium to call on the NSA and presidency, as well as Dr. Dennis Otuaro, for them to look into the affairs or the welfare of the people that are living in Abuja and the Niger Delta.
To the Niger Delta today, you see that there's no longer nuisance. Yes. We are all engaged in one way or the other. And we want to still use this medium to still seek for more. As a community here in Abuja, we have a lot of pressures. We have a lot of targets. We have a lot of widowers, youth who are unemployed. We want to use this medium to ask the office of the amnesty and the Otuaro himself, who is a grassroots, to look inward.
We are begging the president, we want continuity. We want continuity because it's rare to see a good leader that can do this. Otuaro is capable, and we stand with the president. 2027, we stand with the president. Tinubu, we come as the president again. We, the Niger Delta, we are in support of the president.
They pledged to take the presidential campaign to the grassroots across the region to guarantee the realization of the second term for the president. Barely 1 week after a Nigerian mother of 3 died of cancer in the United Kingdom, another Nigerian father of 3, identified simply as Herbert, has been found dead in his apartment. This is just as the deceased was said to have left behind a wife and 3 young children, as his family appeals for financial support to cover funeral and repatriation costs. In the post by an ex-user identified as the stress manager, that Herbert, who lived in Thornaby, died suddenly in his sleep in what relatives described as a shocking and heartbreaking incident. According to the post, the deceased has been battling emotional and financial strain following the death of his father in Nigeria just days before his own passing. For the latest and stories making headlines in the world of sports, we have Sports Update next.
The 2026 National Open Kickboxing Championship held at the Indoor Sports Hall of the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, where rising stars shone across multiple divisions, including full contact, low kick, and point fighting for both men and women. In the 75 kg low kick mid category, Samuel Ogedegbe of the Nigerian Air Force won the gold medal. Also in the 67 low kick mid category, Jude Olalekon of the Nigerian Army secured gold, and in the female category, Oluchi Diamond from Unilag won the 65 kg gold medal.
Training, believing in yourself, always training, always stay motivated, and that's just it. Always believe in yourself. I really believe that as I entered the ring, nobody would see it to the end with me.
It's a good thing having a workshop and rounding it up with a championship. And one thing our intention is to train and retrain.
Meanwhile, as part of efforts to further improve grassroots coaches in Delta State, a data-based coach, Omokoro Akpobomen, has been rewarded by the Delta State government through the Delta State Sports Commission to participate in a coaching course in Russia. This was a result of his outstanding performance at the Governor Sheriff Oboriwori Invitational Football Tournament, where he emerged as the overall best coach.
As a coach, I have the dream, to get up to UEFA BA license. And I think everything starts with a step, every journey in life. With this, going to Russia to get an internship experience, I think is a very good step for me as a coach going forward.
And lastly, in tennis, Ben Shanti declared his Munich Open victory a significant achievement for American men on clay. Ranked 6th globally, Shanti is the first American since Andrea Agassi's 2002 Rome Masters win to secure a tournament above the ATP 250 level. With Sports Update, Omoyemi Unobon, NTA News.
Tuesday's weather forecast is next. And that does it on the news at this time on NTA International. Thank you for watching. I'm Lami Ali. Shegun Ajayi has been the sign language interpreter. Do have a good evening.